Hi, good afternoon. You've just returned from project site visitation and we wanted to know what you think of the experience so far. But before we start, let's get to know the people we're interviewing. So I'm going to start by the gentleman or the sir by my right. Just your name, introduce yourself, just tell us who you are.
Okay, I'm Dr. Patterson Ogon. I'm Executive Assistant to the Bayelsa State Governor on Policy and Strategy.
Okay, and the madam.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Patience Abah. I am the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment, Bayelsa State, but I also double as the Director General of the Bayelsa Investment Promotion Agency.
And our familiar face.
Managing Director, Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency, Mr. Mark Okoye.
Okay, so we're going to start with our guest, Dr. Ogon. Dr. Ogon, how would you describe your overall experience during this peer learning visit to ANSIPPA?
Well, development planning is not a one-fits-all situation. What works for a particular society may not necessarily work for the other. But again, you can learn and then make adjustments to suit the particular environment that you think you are interested in. So we came to have a look at what ANSIPPA is doing, essentially to study the structure, see the legal framework, and also understand what synergy that builds with the other levels of actors, especially maybe the level of the State Executive Council, the commissioners, the governor, and all of that. Well, I think we are taking away some very salient issues. First of all, the operation seems to, in a way, a bit informal, but also working because of the nature of those who appears to be part of the entire working process. And again, the focus for me is key. When you have the focus and then you have a leader who believes in what you're doing and gives you the confidence to run with it, you get a free hand, and then they're actually able to, with confidence, look at your template, look at your deliverables, and then look at the targets that you've set for yourself and run with it. So I think that we found a situation where the Mr. Governor has a very good working relationship. And again, that he sits in ESCO, so that probably makes it a bit easier. And is able to, with vision, run his project through and gets the approval of the governor. That is one. And the other aspect of it is the delivery time for projects, especially creating an extensive asset base for the state, and the time it takes them to deliver on these projects in 11 months, as the case may be. And these are legacy projects. So, and the fact that you warehouse the funds to ensure that there is no obstruction of any sort, looking at the timelines, looking at the milestones, projects are delivered and then you pay. It doesn't happen in most climes and states and situations. Payment for contractors is always sometimes quite challenging in some environments. But from our engagement and what we have learned, that seems to be totally different with ANSIPPA and the Anambra State Government. And I think is good. So that's one takeaway that we've learned. And then looking at some of the key projects, take for instance the Solution Fund City, the ICC, and then the Oka Millennium Park. Fantastic concepts, and I think that properly pursued, and they are doing it quite silently because until we came, we probably would not have known that things like this are going on. But we've seen ourselves, we've taken a look at them. We will see what is also possible from our own end and build on that collaboration with ANSIPPA and the Anambra State Government.
Okay, just before I move to Madam Abah, like I said, you just returned from project visits. Which one in particular stood out to you?
I think the solution fund city stood out for me. It stood out for me because you have just a situation where you have an assembly, a facility that offers fun and also creates wealth, for the state. One that at least families and kids, for instance, will have the opportunity of catching fun, while it also generates, and it's in the heart of the town. So the concept that it's not even the state agencies that are running it, is also totally different from what you observe there are some states that you have such facilities, and then you discover that it's a particular ministry or a government agency that runs it directly. So most times running through and breaking through, sometimes breaking even becomes a problem, because government officials get interested in the assets, in how funds are generated, and it creates a contestation for space. Most of the times people get interested and said, okay, this is what I should be doing, why are you doing my job? So I didn't see that happen, and maybe because you've probably taken an earlier study of what happens in other places, so you've been able to fine-tune the operations to suit their Anambra environment. So I think for me that stands out exceptionally well for me.
Thank you so much, sir. Let's move to the madam. Ma, were there any specific aspects of ANSIPPA strategies or operations that stood out to you, or that you think that you can replicate in Bayelsa as the DG of the Bayelsa Investment Promotion Agency?
Yes, thank you. I mean, there are a few that I can mention, but if I had to just summarize it all, it's just the level of synergy that ANSIPPA has been able to put in place between what they do and the various MDAs. So the level of teamwork, everything from conception to final delivery, there's just this evidence of real synergy and teamwork at play. And that is really critical. It's really critical because of the timelines involved, and in investment generation, we all know that, money doesn't sit around. If you take a long time to get things done, those investment funds that you're trying to get into your project will just go elsewhere, So being very mindful of having a process in place where you can get a very quick turnaround, I think is absolutely key. And ANSIPPA, under the leadership of Mark Okoye, is really to be congratulated, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do because, it also speaks to the fact that I think there's a shared vision. Where there's a shared vision, it's a lot easier to actualize teamwork. So clearly we can see that in Anambra State, as far as in investment generation and business operations, that there's definitely a shared vision. And that's definitely something that, a very strong message that I'm taking back home.
Okay, talking about things you're going to be doing back home, you mentioned yesterday on the Bayelsa Investment Summit. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes, the Bayelsa Investment Summit is actually the Economic and Investment Summit. It's an event that's held every 2 years. And just like other states, Anambra included, it provides an opportunity to showcase the various investment opportunities and business opportunities and areas of comparative advantage that the state has. It's an opportunity to open up Bayelsa State to the world, an opportunity to partner with other states, with private investors, with development agencies, private sector. And it's also an opportunity to share experiences. Every state goes through certain challenges, and we can share best practices. And so just like what we've done in coming here for this peer review, to learn from what challenges ANSIPPA has been through and how they've been able to to get it right in terms of project development and engaging with investors. So that investment summit is an opportunity to really open up Bayelsa State to the world. And it's also an opportunity to forge partnerships across board. It's an opportunity to seek funding as well for a lot of what we're doing. And it's just an opportunity to open up Bayelsa State to the world.
Talking about partnerships, we are expecting an invitation to the summit. I'm expecting a personal invitation to the summit.
Definitely, you can count on it.
Okay, thank you. And let's go back to our MD. This is the first time ANSIPPA is hosting another state IPA. How do you feel?
Well, I feel good. I think for me, I've always had the view that, first of all, we can only truly develop Nigeria if we develop our subnationals. Once we have a clear subnational strategy, development strategy, that requires everyone sitting at the table and agreeing to what their core competence is, then all of us agreeing to what role we're going to play to ensure that tier of government functions optimally. That's only when we will truly see the prosperity and that potential unleashed. So for me, I think the next step with this sort of visit, like I said, it's something that we're always willing to do. We are always happy to jump on calls with colleagues to brainstorm and share ideas. Yes, it is Bayelsa today that has come on a peer learning visit to learn from what we've been through. But within the same meeting, you mentioned things like the Bayelsa Investment Development Corporation. We're transitioning into the Anambra Development Investment Corporation. So I will be calling you because I would like to understand sort of the issues that you faced at the time, because there's no new ideas under the sun, right? It's just essentially when someone says he has a new idea and that idea works, it's a culmination of different experiences and other people's ideas that they've just found the right balance and the right mix, and then it functions. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We look at Temasek. One thing we try to do in Anambra, when we're coming up with new concepts, we ask who's doing it best internationally, right? What are lessons there? Who's doing it best on a continental basis? Then we're now looking who's also doing this within the country, or who has tried to do this, and what were those issues. So as we go through this process, we'll be reaching out. That's one. Second other area that I'm really pleased to have hosted you is our conversations around potential bilateral partnerships between our governments. Anambra is 4,844 square kilometers. 30% of that is threatened by erosion. Another 45% to 50% of that is urbanized areas. So we're really playing around with about 15% of land. And in that 15%, we must build for a prosperous future in our industrial parks. We must have the solution for city. We must have a theme park. We will have our airport and airport city. We will have our new master plans with Ogon and Onitsha. So you see that there really isn't that much land to play with in terms of thinking through the full value chain on agriculture. But one thing that will be most important is food security. As our population continues to grow, available land for development continues to shrink, food security will ultimately become extremely most important and number one on most governments' list. So that's one area that I will be taking up from here. We have to see how we can do a similar sort of situation to what Lagos and Kebbi had done, and see if we can replicate that, but select the crops, bring in the right experts to the table, advise us on the best way to go, and then have some sort of framework for to roll that out and what our different roles will be. I think the third bit that I did want to touch on that I saw while we were here is, I think it was just private discussions between you and I where we spoke to building a structure, so taking what we've done now and trying to extend that to the wider network of investment promotion agencies in the entire country. We should have our structured leadership. And what that leadership does is that it allows us meet regularly, share ideas, have a formalized platform to bounce ideas. There's amazing things the guys in Lagos are doing that we could learn from. There's amazing things that I'm certain that you will be doing this year that a lot of us want to learn from. Let's inject more energy into our WhatsApp platform and let it not be somewhere to just throw information, on what must be done or letters to be invited to some summits. We we should meet periodically and agree and then leverage that platform to share what we're all doing. And then we can then because if everyone who's holding a part of the chain wins, and ultimately that chain stays stronger and Nigeria will win ultimately.
Nigeria will win ultimately. And just before we close this, I'm back to you, Doctor. One last question. Could you give us a snippet of the kind of report you're going to give to your state governor? How well did we do?
Well, we will share our experiences with him and let him understand how hospitable you are. We met that in the faces of those who work here in ANSIPPA and of course even with the team. And then also let him understand that for development, focused agenda, creating, warehousing the fund is key.
Yes.
You need to warehouse the funds because you don't want to be subjected to payment delays for especially those who are contractors who are delivering projects for you. And especially so because you're working within a timeline. So that is one key aspect of it we want to share with him. Drawing from the experiences we've seen in ANSIPPA, that is going to be vital for us to look at that. And then to also look at other areas of tourism. Bayelsa is key when it comes to tourism, but those potentials need to be developed. And so we'll expand our base and look at other areas of tourism that can attract people to float into Bayelsa. Yes, the Solution Sun City, for instance, is one area that can create jobs even for those in Anambra. And I saw that some of those who are offering those services are also from within the states. Yes, and so there is nowhere you won't have competent hands, specialized skills that can offer those services. And we have a lot of them also in Bayelsa. Maybe it's also to look from within, and see how those services are put into use.
3 out of the 4 are from Anambra. And the 4th person, who the CEO is a Chinese man, his partners, the owners of the company, are from Anambra. So the beauty about working with these indigenous contractors, not only do you give them jobs and you also develop the talent and the skill base, but the funds are retained within the local economy. And when the international contractor after they get a profit, they repatriate to China, to Germany, to all those very nice places. But when these guys make money and make a profit, they go and build a house in Millennium City. They go and buy some land and build their own real estate city. And that then helps with the, what you call it, I think in economics we say the velocity of funding, how many times the funds can sort of turn around, as the case may be. And every time it turns, it creates jobs. Yeah.
You've seen Anambra State. Is this the first time you've been in Anambra State?
Second.
This second time. What message would you like us to take back to our governor? I want him to hear it from you.
Mr. Governor, we've seen him on TV promoting Anambra State, talking about how well Anambra State is actually business ready, but we've seen it now. So Mr. Governor should hear that we have seen the evidence for ourselves that Anambra is efficient and Anambra is ready for business. Anambra is going places. And I'm not just saying that. We've seen the evidence of it. And should be emulated. Yes.
There's a point you had asked when we were, in our session. I think Dr. Patterson spoke to that, that it seems there's a camaraderie amongst all of us,
Yes.
If it's me and the SSG or the SSG, Ministry of Lands or Ministry of Lands and myself, Ministry of Works, Tourism, it's simply because of his shared vision. When he came in, he spent the first 2-3 months ingraining that vision into everyone. If you cannot adopt it and imbibe it and embody it, then you step out of the team.
Yes.
He's not begging for people to serve. There's a long list. I think he picked his commissioners when he came on board, when he was trying to get commissioners. He had a portal where 19,000 people applied. Of the 19,000 people, he picked commissioners, special advisors, and a few other people came, but 80% of his cabinet came from people who said, I want to serve. So By saying that, then we all sign performance contracts. And in our performance contracts, there were projects. That's why when I'm saying solution for city and industrial master plan, it's in my performance contract. So, and obviously every 6 months we have the retreats where we go in and it's 3 sections of a presentation, 5 slides only. First section is what are the electoral promises that were made that concern your agency? The second section is what are those deliverables that will help you achieve those and how far have you sort of implemented them in the last 6 months, the last 1 year? Then the third part is what are your plans for the rest of the year? Which of these ones will you achieve? So constantly tracking, where we are at any point in time. So anytime anyone who works for the state stands up, you look at Solution Fund City, Ministry of Works has a role. They're supporting with the roads. Ministry of Tourism provided guidance with the master plan with the young man on site who did that. I'm looking at the investment opportunity and the management aspect to it. Right, Oka Capital Development Territory had to go and get back that surrounding land. That land was already heavily encroached. So Oka Capital came, them and Ministry of Lands had to come and get that land. About 5-6 agencies working on the same project, but we all know that the governor wants to deliver it by July. So there are no excuses, So I think that helps all of us sort of work in. And most times he doesn't sign memos that have one signature. I'll just be honest with you. He wants 2-3 people to have looked at it before you push it. So,
and that's the synergy I was referring to when I was asked the first question. It's palpable. You can touch it. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm back to Hagen. Any last words before? I'm partial. I say it. Any last words before we let you go? We're done.
Last words. Well, Anambra is a very hospitable state. From the moment we arrived, we've felt so welcome, and the openness. We've asked questions where, in some areas we felt, we're not so sure. Should I ask this question? Are they really going to answer it? But the entire team has been entirely open, answering questions very honestly. And we see now actually that we have a lot in common. Some of the challenges that we're facing, especially with some projects that have been lingering for a while, moving from government to government, those challenges, we have a lot in common. And this gives me the confidence that the solutions that they've been able to bring to bear to solve those challenges, we can also apply them back in Bayelsa because we have a lot in common. Now, Anambra is population of about 8 million. Bayelsa is about 2.5. Like you said, landmass about 4,000. Yes, we about 10.7. At 10,000, so almost 11,000 square kilometers. So there's a lot that can be done. Even this morning at breakfast, I was looking at what was served. I'm like, looks like they like plantain in Anambra. But also has huge comparative advantage for plantain. We can supply you with all the plantain you need, but no, and not just that, so a lot of other commodities. So we're ready. We're very excited to discuss it with our principal when we get back home. And this will not be the end of the conversation. Yeah.
This will not be the end of the conversation, but this is the end of my conversation. So thank you so much. And I think we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.